On June 25th of 1980, the governors of Arizona, California, Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada, Wyoming, and Utah each received one of the most important letters ever written concerning the Colorado River. On that date, the Secretary of the Interior notified the states that Lake Powell, stored behind Glen Canyon Dam, had filled for the first time. At that moment, the dreams of the framers of the Colorado River Storage Project were realized. Over a 17-year period, beginning in 1963, the waters of Lake Powell slowly filled to an eventual point of storing over 26 million acre-feet, an amazing 9 trillion gallons, to create the second largest reservoir in the country. Lake Powell has been called an intimate place because of the incredible numbers of side canyons which provide serenity and isolation to its visitors. Named for Major John Wesley Powell, the one-armed Civil War veteran who first explored the region and floated the Colorado River in 1869, Lake Powell was characterized by Sunset Magazine as an immense fjord in the heart of the southwest Red Rock Canyon country. The Colorado River Basin stretches about 1,400 miles from the high mountains of Colorado and Wyoming to the Gulf of California in Mexico. Glen Canyon Dam is just above the halfway point in the river that divides the upper basin states of Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, and Utah from the lower basin states of Arizona, California, and Nevada. The Colorado River Storage Project dams, including Glen Canyon Dam in Arizona, Flaming Gorge Dam in Utah, Navajo Dam in New Mexico, and the Wayne N. Aspinall Unit's Blue Mesa, Morrow Point, and Crystal Dams in Colorado, enables the upper basin states to manage their share of the mighty Colorado River. The total project is one of the most complex and extensive water projects in the world, and Glen Canyon Dam is the keystone of the system. The numbers associated with Glen Canyon Dam are staggering. The dam rises from the river bedrock to a height of 710 feet. Nearly 5 million cubic yards of concrete were used to build the dam, enough to build a 4-lane highway from Phoenix, Arizona to Chicago, Illinois. The installed hydropower plant capacity is more than 1.3 million kilowatts, enough to meet the power needs of nearly 2 million households. The 186-mile-long reservoir has an incredible shoreline of over 1,900 miles, more than the west coast of the United States. Studies indicate that Lake Powell has a life expectancy of many hundreds of years. Glen Canyon Dam and the Carl Hayden Visitor Center are open to the public for daily guided tours. Close to 1 million visitors a year are awed by this engineering marvel. Millions of people come from around the world each year to recreate on the lake, infusing about $500 million a year into the regional economies of Arizona and Utah. In the Grand Canyon, thousands of river runners now travel downstream on flows that the river guides can count on year-round. Prior to the dam, only a limited number of intrepid adventurers, numbering in the hundreds, had ever run the river through the Grand Canyon. And yet those numbers only tell a fraction of the story of Glen Canyon Dam. The full story of Glen Canyon Dam is one of service and adaptation. It is a story of meeting the water needs of many states while learning to adjust the dam's operations to exist in harmony with the downstream river environments of Glen and Grand Canyons. In 1922, the states agreed by means of a compact among them to divide the waters of the river between the upper and lower basins. To ensure that sufficient water is provided each year to the lower basin, the upper basin is obligated to deliver a minimum of 75 million acre-feet of water in any 10-year period to the lower basin. The measuring point for these deliveries is located 16 miles downstream of Glen Canyon Dam at Lee Ferry. In addition, a treaty with the Republic of Mexico signed in 1944 guarantees 1.5 million acre-feet of Colorado River water to our southern neighbors. Lake Powell provides about half of that requirement. Lake Powell provides the long-term carryover water storage that allows the upper Colorado River Basin states of Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, and Utah to use their share of the river while also delivering the lower basin states of Arizona, California, and Nevada their share. During times of frequent droughts in the Southwest, this is especially critical. There may not always be enough water in the upper basin to provide for those deliveries to the lower basin and still allow Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, and Utah to use their shares of the river. Lake Powell is, in essence, a bank account of water to be used to guarantee water deliveries to the lower basin. Around that basic premise, many years of subsequent laws and agreements known as the Law of the River have been formed to bring order to what otherwise would be a chaotic management process. In addition to storing water, a secondary benefit of Glen Canyon Dam is the generation of hydropower. The proceeds from the sale of power are applied to the cost of the dam. Power revenues also repay sizable portions of the costs of 21 other water projects in Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, and Utah. To generate electricity at the dam, water must be in motion. When flowing water turns the blades in a turbine, the energy form is changed from flowing water to mechanical energy. The turbine turns a generator rotor, which then converts the mechanical energy into another energy form, electricity. Since water is the initial source of energy, it is called hydroelectric power, or hydropower for short. This is all possible because of the water stored behind the dam. The water to power the 8 generators is drawn from the reservoir and delivered to the power plant through large pipes called penstalks. Each penstock reduces in size from 15 feet to 14 feet in diameter as it enters the turbine. The water descends more than 400 feet at an incline of 60 degrees. After the water passes through the turbine, it returns to the Colorado River unchanged to serve other downstream needs. The turbines are both sophisticated and massive. Each of the 8 units weighs nearly 46 tons and requires about 4,150 cubic feet per second of water to operate at full capacity. When all 8 generators are operating at full output, about 15 million gallons of water passes through the 8 penstocks each minute. The hydroelectric power produced at Glen Canyon Dam serves people living in cities, towns, and rural locations in Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada, Wyoming, and Utah. In the early years of operation, Glen Canyon Dam provided all the expected benefits in terms of water storage and hydropower generation, but not without impacts to downstream resources. The fluctuating releases from the dam, dictated by changing power market demands, contributed to the erosion of the beaches and siltation of backwaters. Vegetation along the river increased, attracting birds and mammals, including the endangered southwestern willow flycatcher. River runners frequently found themselves stranded with their boats on the shore as the river level dropped. The cold, clear water released from the dam changed the river. A thriving trout fishery was created, but the cold water created a hostile environment for native suckers and chubs. Today, most of those warm water native fish are restricted to river segments below side channel rivers and streams, such as the Little Colorado River or Kanab Creek. By the mid-1980s, scientific studies conducted by the Bureau of Reclamation indicated that alternative ways to operate Glen Canyon Dam needed to be studied and long-term changes eventually made. In 1989, the Bureau of Reclamation, in partnership with other federal, state, and Native American tribal governments, began the largest environmental impact study in the history of the agency. Current and future water management needs had to be balanced with new and creative ways to manage the dam for the benefit of downstream resources to ensure the long-term health of the Grand Canyon. As a result, Glen Canyon Dam operations changed in the 1990s. Now, in addition to meeting traditional water and power needs, Glen Canyon Dam is operated in a more environmentally sensitive manner. New operating criteria protects the ecological resources of the Grand Canyon. Flow parameters concerning the minimum and maximum releases from the dam and the rate at which the flows may fluctuate are in place. The cost of the studies that led to operational changes were paid for by the customers who purchased Glen Canyon Dam's hydropower. Revenue from the sale of power also continues to fund most of the ongoing research and scientific monitoring of the dam's operations and impacts in the Grand Canyon. Key to dam operations is a practice called adaptive management. Managers, in consultation with the public, scientists, state and Native American tribal governments, hydropower customers, and a variety of special interest groups, constantly monitor the downstream impacts to determine if adjustments need to be made in operations. In addition to adapting operations, special opportunities may be found to use flows from the dam to achieve positive changes in restoring the downstream conditions. The most notable example occurred in the spring of 1996, when the Secretary of the Interior triggered an intentional flood from the dam to mimic the historic floods that used to run through the Grand Canyon. Prior to Glen Canyon Dam, melting snow in the upper river basins led to raging spring floods through Glen, Marble, and Grand Canyons. The evolutionary history of the ecosystem was based upon annual disturbance patterns that were lost with the advent of the dam. The beach habitat building flow, as it is referred to, was intended to scour vegetation along the channel banks, redeposit sandbars along the river, and restore backwater habitats believed important to the humpback chub, an endangered species of fish, in much the same way as the historic floods did. In general, the results were positive. Scientific designs of future experimental flood releases will likely look at higher magnitude and shorter duration releases, as well as being conducted at different times of the year. Through careful monitoring before, during, and after the flood event, scientists and managers began to understand how the force of the river may occasionally be used to benefit downstream resources. Following the test flood, managers shifted their attention towards understanding how to maintain the benefits created by the flood and determining how often such flooding should take place. As the years go by, we will continue to learn more about the relationship between our management actions and the downstream resources. The objective is clear: to continue to receive the water and power benefits provided by Glen Canyon Dam and operate in balance and harmony with the river's ecosystem. As a futurist, John Wesley Powell had a good eye. In the years after his river trips, he campaigned vigorously for laws to enable the settlement of the West through the development of the abundant but erratic water resources of the region. He also, in a way, foresaw the concept of adaptive management when he stressed that cooperative ventures to build water projects were the only effective means by which water could be controlled and distributed. In today's world, cooperative ventures includes the full range of interests, from water and power customers to environmental and recreational supporters, in coordination with federal and state agencies and Native American tribal governments. In the end, Glen Canyon Dam is all about water management, providing the American Southwest with the most vital ingredient required for life: water. In the 1920s, former Texas Governor Pat Neff wrote, "Water is the most abundant of all created commodities. It is older than the human race. It is known to the language of every land and has followed the adventurous footsteps of man around and above the world. It is indestructible. Not since the Spirit moved on the face of the waters and they were gathered into the seas has there been one drop lost. It has been the one commodity of the world that has most made the human race akin. It alone bridges the seeming chasms between the classes and the masses. The rich and the poor, the loved and forsaken, the learned and the ignorant, the aristocratic and the democratic, meet on a common level at the water fountain. brewed in the distilleries of the skies, poured by nature's hand from the cistern of the clouds, purified by the percolations of the ages through the hidden sands of the earth, and brought forth by the hand of man to glisten in the sunlight. It is indeed the beverage of life. Every activity in the arid Southwest is water dependent. As such, water clearly is the lifeblood of the West. Glen Canyon Dam and Reclamation's employees who operate it proudly serve as the stewards of Lake Powell, managing and delivering water today and in the centuries yet to come.